So after doing some hunting in Colorado with two of my sons, I headed off to Utah to do some camping. I haven't driven very much in this part of the country, but I certainly enjoyed the views on the way to Utah. At the recommendation of my brother John, I headed for a place called Gemini Bridges. To get to Gemini Bridges, I took 313 over to a dirt road and then took that dirt road about 3.5 miles down. Upon arriving at Gemini Bridges, I had to hike out just a couple hundred yards to get to the actual location where you can see some arches and a really deep valley.
Pretty dark. Not sure if you'll be able to see. You can see there's the arch right there. Goes all the way down a couple hundred feet probably. And across.
After staying at Gemini Bridges for a while, I then decided to go find a camping spot. I knew there were some camping spots a couple miles away, and I was lucky enough to find one open. I settled in for the evening. I set up camp, made myself some food, and then enjoyed the night sky. I woke up the next morning to beautiful skies, and I set out for my next location, which is called Chicken Corners. To get to Chicken Corners, I had to go through Moab, take Cane Creek, and then take Hura Pass, and finally end up out at Chicken Corners. On my way to Chicken Corners, I met up with another gladiator, and the couple were also heading out to Chicken Corners, so we decided to head out there together. It took about a total of 2 hours to drive out to Chicken Corners on very diverse terrain, sometimes very steep and treacherous roads, and sometimes just nice sandy roads that you could really fly on. Once we arrived at Chicken Corners, we saw why it's called Chicken Corners, because you have rock face on one side and about 1,000-foot cliff on the other, straight down to the Green River. It's pretty spooky, and it was muddy also, so it definitely got my nerves up. The thing about Chicken Corners is that you actually have to come back through it to leave, so I actually got to film the other couple coming back through it. So it took another 2 hours to drive back through, and then I had to find a campsite, which I ended up actually having to pay for that night, but it was only $20, and it was a very nice spot. And once again, settled in for the evening, made myself some grub, and then just went to bed that night after the sunset. The next day, I headed to Arches National Park, and boy, was I impressed. Pictures definitely don't do this place any justice. You have to see it to believe the views. While at Arches, I decided to do the hike Devil's Garden, which is approximately 6 to 7 miles long, and man, it was amazing. If you decide to do this hike, I just want you to know that part of it they call the primitive section, and if you do that, it's much tougher than if you just stay on the main trail. This trail is full of many different arches, some that you will have to take some side trips on, but boy is it worth it. The next day, I headed to the Little Grand Canyon, the Wedge, in Utah, where I was to meet my brother the following day. Upon arriving at the Little Grand Canyon, I set up my camp, began to explore a little bit, and certainly found out why they call it the Little Grand Canyon. The neat thing about the Little Grand Canyon is that you can literally set up your camp right on the edge of the canyon. I was treated to spectacular views and a great sunset that evening. The following morning, I woke up and was treated right from my tent to a great sunrise. I then sat on the edge of the canyon and ate my breakfast. My brother John, his wife Tama, and their dog Daisy showed up about noon, and it sure was great to see them. That afternoon, we went exploring and came across a dinosaur track and a bunch of pictographs that were located deep down in the canyons. After we finished exploring, Tama treated us to a nice pulled pork lunch. Later that evening, we decided to have a fire as the temperature dropped down to about 25 degrees. And then we got to enjoy the night sky. The following morning, we woke up to a beautiful sunrise. Later that morning, we decided to hike down into the canyon right from our campsite. After hiking, we returned to camp where John and Tama prepared a nice hot ham lunch, and then we decided to pack up camp and head back to John's house. While heading out, we went down to a place called Fuller's Bottom where we got to see some antelope. The drive from the Little Grand Canyon to John and Tama's house certainly is beautiful, and the best part was when we got to John and Tama's house, Tama once again fixed us a great meal. Thank you, John and Tama. Overall, my Jeep Mojave has been great. I've had a few little issues, but those were basically operator error. So I'm glad you guys are watching, and please stay tuned for more adventures.